Jason Stacy. Been working such a long time with world number one Aryna Sabalenka. We've been talking about you for a little bit, Jason, in the last few minutes. So thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate that. You got myself, Brad Gilbert, Tracy Austin, Nick Monroe. How is your fall going, and what's next for the squad?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. That's awesome. I'm very excited. Yeah, we just arrived in Dubai. We're just charging things back up, recharging those batteries, and putting all the pieces together to get ready for the WTA finals here in a couple weeks. And yeah, we're just ready to finish off the year stronger than we started.
Jason,
sure.
Jason, so good to have you on. You know, down there at the bottom says you've been with Aryna since 2018. I know she's mentioned that you're on the team. You've been the longest person on the team for the last 7 years with her. But I just want you to run through your story a little bit of how you became a performance coach. I know I was looking at some video. You said you were homeless in your teenage years. So maybe kind of start with your story and how it all came about.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like, as you said, you know, my father died when I was quite young. And a couple years after that, I ended up on the street by myself, homeless, just surviving basically through some pretty rough times, and slowly got off the streets. And one of the things that helped me get off the streets was this martial arts school. And I was actually born in Japan. And when I was very young, I started in martial arts, in judo and jiu-jitsu. And this martial arts school, they let me start training there, even though I had no parents to sign documents. A lot of them were like military guys and ex-cops, and you know, they let me start training there, and I learned a lot about, just gave me some more purpose and a community to be a part of, and it helped me just put a lot of pieces together. And I started coaching there, and I realized, you know, when I was teaching, that it was just such an energy for me. I really loved just helping people, you know, realize, you know, learn a new skill or come to an aha moment. And, you know, in this school, like all our black belt levels, for example, we had to read stacks of books on like philosophy and physiology and psychology and, you know, history, and we had to write papers. And so it wasn't just about learning how to fight. It was actually learning how to develop you as a whole person, how to manage your emotions and your energy, and understand your environment and be aware of things other than just yourself, while developing that self-awareness. And then, you know, from there I became, you know, an athletic trainer, a personal trainer, strength coach. And over the years, I've just been working with a lot of different athletes and, athletes, you know, some entrepreneurs, business folks, just helping them learn how to perform their best. And more importantly to me is how to perform their best while staying in line with their values, you know, growing strong character and being able to sustain that success by maintaining those values.
Jason, it sounds like you should be paid triple because you do so many jobs, and it sounds like everybody wants to hire you as their life coach. And we have seen, as you know, as watching all of these matches now, how she writes on your head. It's so much fun. How important is the camaraderie on your team? Because we know the stress level, the tough loss in Australia in the final, the tough one at Roland Garros as well. But that seems to be such an important component for your team to somehow find the silliness, the dancing. You guys are all pretty good at dancing. But talk about who writes on the head and how important all that is.
I think the culture of any team is, I think, the core of it all. You know, learning how to manage your environment, which for me, when I say environment, it's really more about the people around you.
Your 3 E's you talked about.
Well, that's right. I'm actually writing a book about them, in fact. So this is, to me, like that operating system that no matter what system you follow, what program, what strategies you take, those are like the apps on your phone. And to me, those 3 E's are like the operating system. So the app's are only going to run as good as your operating system. So, you know, being able to actually manage that environment, having the people around you, and you know, again, being in line with who you are as a person and who you want to be, and really being able to understand your values and stick with those values at whatever the cost may be, then, you know, everything like you see with our team was very public. It's very much just who we are, you know, and I think having fun is important. Like, I mean, I could go down the road about talking about all the neuroscience and psychology, about the novelty and, you know, the importance of all that, and how you can, you know, how it helps in development, how it helps with recharge your batteries and your energy. But the reality is like, you know, it's a long road, you know, at seasons we have. There's lots of ups and downs, lots of emotions. Everything is like demand. You know, everyone wants your time and your energy, and it's give all the time. You have to have moments where you can just switch off and just be in the moment. And when you're having some fun and being silly, whether it's, you know, doing a game for a warm up or just goofing off with, you know, some weird stuff that we like to do, whatever, then like what happens is you're in that moment. You're just present. You're not worrying about what's coming up next, the match you're about to face, or what happened last week. You're just there in that moment. And I think that's, especially these days where our attention is going all over the place, it's a pretty powerful thing to be able to do.
Love that.
So yes, we have fun. That's a key part of everything.
Jason, we go way back.
to you being with
Yes, sir.
Tursunov, to the Sacramento Academy. I'm most curious about in 2022, when Sabalenka went through all the serve issues and you brought on the biomechanic, what did you learn most about her, and how was she able to persevere through that and become the player that she became, that was maybe just that one little thing was the roadblock for that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we knew from the beginning that, there was some emotional and physical things that we had to develop and work through, but we also knew there was some technical issues. And that was something that she was always a little bit willing to work hard and work on, but certain parts that she didn't really want to dig deep. She didn't want to really break down certain technical things. You know how it is. A lot of athletes get a little bit afraid that they're gonna, everything's gonna fall apart if they start thinking too much about how certain, technical aspects are going. That year really highlighted. I was actually quite unwell that year, so I missed quite a bit of it until that San Jose tournament, where I said, okay, listen, we're stopping now, period, or we're gonna bring someone on board to face this one thing that we haven't really faced, which is the technical side. But what really highlighted was, while she's grown quite a bit by then, 2022, and still, since then growing quite a bit and maturing into this game and into just, being a performer, is that she always had that fire in her. She was always a fighter, right? She was like this, just ran off emotion and survival mode, and she could just go, go, go. And this is what we always talk about, that difference between like a fighter and a warrior. Well, 2022, she was showing that, yeah, I'm still a fighter. I mean, she was showing up week after week, knowing that she was going to completely just embarrass herself. Double faults, breaking records on all the worst records you could break, but she still kept showing up. The humility, like the frustration, it didn't stop her. She just kept going, even though she didn't have the answer. She was digging and trying, but she had that something inside of her that allowed her to show up and keep going. Which is great. That's more like that young, emotional fighter. Just go bang your head against the wall, and just keep going, keep going. Yeah. But we had to learn how to focus that attention and into the right area, which in this situation was the technical side. And the great thing in that moment, she was finally hit rock bottom basically, and was like, okay, fine, let's do the one thing that we haven't done. Dusan Vimic, he had a friend, Gavin, who he introduced me to. He brought him in, and we kind of figured out what he could offer, what our priorities, what we needed to focus on for Aryna, and how to sort of coach her, how to deliver that information to her. And she was very open, very coachable in that moment, and almost instantly it was it came together. As soon as she knew a few key things, it allowed everything else to come together, because she had that sense of control. She understood, if I do this and it hits the net, oh, it's because of that. Where, say, before she missed a serve, she was thinking about her wrist and her toss and her leg and her hip and her this. So she had 20 things going in her mind, and she didn't know exactly what the root cause was. Where with the information from Gavin and Anton really helping her understand the technical side, it gave her this power where she could just settle down again, have a bit more control of her emotions. And instead of being this young emotional fighter, she could be more shifting a little bit closer to being more like that warrior, where there's purpose, there's intention, there's clarity about what you're doing. You get to choose your battles and how you're going to fight those battles, versus just showing up and going I'm going to survive at whatever cost it is. So that was a pretty cool year for us to have that moment of realization of you have to shift this running off of pure emotion and be a bit more mature and controlled about it.
That was an amazing story and insight. We actually just saw Mute fight off multiple break chances in Almaty for Struthigov double break. We're reliving some of the great moments in the great season here from Aryna. I always have fun learning, Jason, certain tennis players, I don't know if there's any cross-training or other sports or activities that she's involved with. Are there sports she does that you guys have fun with, or maybe just other hobbies she does?
I mean, we do like to integrate a lot of different aspects of different sports and different activities. I mean, as you know, probably TikTok dancing is the secret weapon. That's probably
yeah, definitely.
It's so good.
That's key.
So just don't tell anyone, okay? It's our secret, right? No. I mean, look, I've always integrated a lot of grappling drills and modified jiu-jitsu type drills with her. Just early on, she had a lot of strength, but not very good coordination or awareness of her body, and a lot of these different crawling patterns and different body weight movements really helps you become more aware of your body, have a better sense of control. Your center gets stronger. You have more control of the end ranges of movement. So we integrate probably a lot more of that jiu-jitsu-y sort of stuff, just because that's my background a lot too, so I love it. So why not? But no, nothing real specific. We just play around soccer a little bit, just any sort of games that we can come up with whatever resources we have at the time, then we'll have a play.
Fun.
We'll have a go.
I got a couple questions, but we see the top of your head right there, and she's pounding on the top of your head. Who's doing the drawing there of the tiger on top of your head?
Oh, the tiger is actually one of those little temporary tattoos that you get wet and you peel it off and it's sitting there. Yeah, so that was the first year she put that on me, and the second year I did it. The first year was for her, and this year was for me. I did it for myself.
Well,
and it was kind of cool. We decided that right as we were finishing the warm up before she went out to the final. I was like, we were kind of like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I was like, you know what? I told Aryna, I was like, listen, I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it for you this year. I'm doing it for myself. And when I used to compete and have certain obstacles that were really difficult for me, I always had something on me, like in my pocket or in my soda, my gi or somewhere that was and often it was funny. It was often a tiger or an eagle.
Oh, wow.
That was my two animals or whatever. And that was I would sort of draw my attention to that. That was my energy. I was my source. I kind of just bring everything to that one spot to help kind of bring me back to center, so I can focus on the task at hand and not be too lost in my emotions. So I told her, I was like, for me tonight, there was so much energy I had, and so I was really trying to control myself. So I was like, listen, I'm gonna do this for myself. And I'll tell you a quick story. The best part was before I told her, as I told her, look, I'm doing it for myself, not for you. And I started saying, when I used to fight, when I used to do this, she interrupted me. She goes, it helped you be more grounded? I was like, oh my God, yes. Yeah. So I didn't even have to say anything to her. It kind of indirectly kind of gave her that, kind of primed her thinking okay, I need to be grounded. I'm going to focus on this and have herself be more centered. And, the way she performed that night, you see it, I think it worked. So that's good.
Well, Jason, obviously you've helped her become world #1. You've helped, people become world champions in jiu-jitsu, judo, swimming, tennis. It's amazing what you've done. But one thing I read as far as what you've helped Aryna with was her breathing. You mentioned kind of early on when you all were working together, you recognized something in the way she was playing and the way she was breathing, and now you all have changed that. So maybe you can go into that aspect of what you've worked on.
Yeah, easy. The first part was more initially was this mechanics of her breathing. I could see that she was wasting and losing lots of energy. And as we say, or I like to say at least, breath control is emotional control. So when we work on our breathing, it was, for her initially it was mechanics. So it was going to give her a lot more energy as far as physical energy, so she's be more efficient while she's playing. So, near the end of matches or the end of tournaments, if she has several matches, she has more reserves because she hasn't been running at, ramping up those RPMs so much because she's breathing so heavy and being so exhausted. So it was the mechanics of breathing. So, we improved her fitness by doing nothing but improving her breathing. Didn't change much else as far as her conditioning. And every measure that we could take from the doctors and from what we were doing, within 6 months, I think it was 6 to 9 months, I think it was that range where almost every marker for her, cardiovascular fitness improved. And all we did was work on her mechanics of breathing and get that awareness of how to breathe. The other side, like I said, is it's this emotional control. So, how I breathe will directly influence how I'm thinking and feeling. So I have, and so if I'm in the middle of a match or in some sort of stressful state, if I have that awareness and that discipline enough to breathe a certain way, it'll bring me back into a certain state that I need to be able to focus and perform my best. And the best part about it's a physical thing. So it's, no matter how I'm feeling, I have control of that. I just need the discipline to do it, even if I'm not in the mood to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I breathe this way, I'm definitely going to feel a certain way no matter what. I just need to make myself do it no matter how I'm feeling. Yeah. And that'll allow me to get that sense of control, which gives me that power. And, it's a big part of that emotional control. So really, initially, it was the mechanics of the breathing to improve, her ability for her thoracic and her lungs and everything to move, the respiratory muscles to kind of wake up again, to have that control. Gives her a lot more strength in her core as well. But for me, the bigger picture was this emotional control, giving her something, think about when you're in a match and you have all this noise going on, all these voices in your head going round and round. And, one way to quiet the noise is to try to find one thing to focus on. So if I give you a way of breathing, and I don't even care, there's lots of different types of techniques and methods and breathing rates that you can go through that all have different benefits. And for me, really, I don't care. I want to give you something that you're comfortable doing, that you can remember to do and do easily in that, stressful state. Because all it's going to do is if you're thinking about your breathing, you're not thinking about all that other stuff. So the more I'm focusing on the one thing, all those voices, all that noise gets a little bit quieter. It never goes away, obviously, as those of you who've competed know. That never really goes away, but it gets a lot quieter, so I can be a little more, all my attention being spread to 10 different places, I can narrow it down to one. And that one thing I'm in control of.
Jason, I love
And then because I'm breathing a certain way, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I love how you are just working on every aspect. I mean, you've talked about technical, you've talked about the emotional. I saw the balance exercises with the big toe. I mean, you're really going into all the nuances and minutia. It's absolutely phenomenal. She's lucky to have you. But I'm so curious. We all watched her play at Roland Garros. That final was so emotional, and you're talking about the emotional control. It was windy. It was only a few minutes before that they opened the roof, and Aryna lost that match. Coco just seemed to be a little bit better in dealing with all of the issues that day. So what was the learning curve for Aryna to take that loss, which was a tough one, because I think she won the first set, and then to finish up the year so strong at the U.S. Open? What was the learning curve? What did you guys talk about? What did she learn from Roland Garros?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a pretty tough match. It was tough to watch for us too, because we could see what was happening, and a lot of what we saw was not at the same level, but it was like that old Aryna, that younger Aryna, that was like a lot of fire. But as you know, with a lot of high performers, their biggest strength can also be their biggest weakness if they don't have good control over that. And for her, is that fire that she has, that emotion. When she has control over it, then it's everyone's in trouble. When she kind of loses a bit of control of that, and she gets frustrated, her attention goes the wrong places, then it can destroy her. And so we saw a little glimpse of an old Aryna. The only difference was this time is the frustration was greater because she was aware of what was happening, but she couldn't stop herself from just letting this steamroll out of control. And the more it happened, the more frustrated she got. And she was frustrated because she knew it was happening, but just was at a point where, for whatever that reason in that moment, and what I believe what happened was the lead up to that Roland Garros, she had played so many matches. So we showed up at Roland Garros, she was sick. She got sick from some virus or something, and she was exhausted. So by the time she got to that final, she had very minimal resources to manage herself. So that, for us, that was a big part of going back and going through the things that we already practiced so much and developed, was how to manage your energy, right? So a big part of that was what we're going to look at schedule moving forward as well. But for her, that learning curve was, we had a year of very consistent, being to finals, winning some, losing others, losing ones, usually because of something she lost control over rather than really maintaining that fire for herself. And so we had to really look at I'll take a step back. The thing is this: you are who you are, right? And we work on and develop different things at different times, but these things are always cycling through. We're always revisiting, these things about ourselves, these traits we have. We're always going to revisit, some opponents or some situations that we struggle with. And the idea is that we want to be spiraling upward instead of going round and round or spiraling downward. We want to be revisiting these things at a higher level with more experience, a better awareness, better tools on what to do about it. So the greatest part was right after that match, when we're in that locker room or in the gym, all she was talking about was how she's taking responsibility for it, about how her behavior was, embarrassment to the team, to herself. And the next morning she came with ideas of why she thought that happened, trying to figure out some solutions on what was going on. Where before we'd have to have a talk and kind of drag things out and kind of, it would kind of evolve. Where she on her own started reading this book, she started asking questions. She came to us and was like, hey, this is what I was thinking. What do you guys think? I was feeling this was happening. And so she was already much more mature and experienced about it. Yes, it happened. You know what? We all have these moments where we're going to lose control. And unfortunately for us, the entire world gets to see when we have a bad day. When we have a really bad day.
Jason.
We lose, when we're hangry or whatever, so.
But how did you?
It was a tough lesson, but a good one.
How did you help because she did not play in Montreal, and how did that help at the U.S. Open? Because she played so well there.
Absolutely. Well, a big part was two things I would say. Well, three things. One, letting the team, making sure everyone understood what had happened wasn't some new thing or some dramatic thing that we had to freak out and change the whole world about. It was, this was the same kind of thing that we've dealt with all these years, but, we didn't expect it just then. But we also understood that it probably came from just being so depleted with her energy, her resources, so emotionally drained that she just couldn't handle it. She just lost control when all these things were out of there. So just recognizing that, look, this wasn't anything new. It was the same thing. And that, we're all more experienced and have more understanding. And Aryna is much more mature now, and that we're going to be okay. The second thing was she actually came to me as hey, that breathing thing you have me do? Because now she's doing all these meetings and obligations and dinners and photo shoots, media. So I gave her some things to do during those activities to help manage her energy. So she doesn't leave there exhausted. She leaves there energized.
Wow.
And so she actually came to me. She's like, "What was that one thing that we were doing like in Indy was last year? And I had all those things going on, and I felt really good afterward instead of being so tired." So it was just a breathing drill. I remind her. She goes, "Okay, cool." And she started doing that on her own at practice, even, which she never did before.
Wow.
So she was looking for like, okay, I knew these things help me manage my energy, help me keep more centered, have some sense of control. And she was looking for those things and finding the 2 or 3 things that were really simple on how she could do those things for herself.
Yeah.
And so we really just spent the time to step back, let everyone settle down, figure out what we agreed on, what was probably the cause, and what we can what we have control over, I should say. And then we just started going back to work and just fine-tuning the things that we already knew. We just, again, we cycle through these things. It's not gonna be the last time we see that happening.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen all the time.
Yeah.
We just want to be able to catch it a bit earlier and be able to fix it much quicker
Jason,
as we move along this journey.
I like the breathing. You know, I'm a big Wim Hof fan, but I'm curious that when you went from martial arts to getting in tennis, and you said you had zero tennis background, how quickly did you get up to speed and understanding the tennis body compared to other athletes that you were working with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, me personally, I've always been really good. And maybe because I've spent most of my life training martial arts and doing all these kind of things, I have a real good awareness of my body and of other people's movement. So even when I was studying like kinesiology, I would barely even study, and I graduated with honors. It was just easy for me. So, movement, all that for me always kind of was really easy to see. The other thing I got really good at, and maybe that was from all the, the not so fun stuff in my life with having to learn about people's intentions and reading body language and understanding people and how they interact. So for me, tennis was interesting because I had zero experience. I still to this day don't really play tennis. I've been to like almost close to 20 years now. I think 06 or 07 was when I started with Tursunov. And it didn't take me too much long. It was more really learning about the language, the people, like their perception of how things are, how they work, the different cultures. There's so many different countries, people from so many different countries that, the way they're sort of taught, the way they're coached, the way they're brought up, they have different cultures. And so it's more understanding the person's background, how you speak to an Eastern Bloc, sort of ex-Soviet, raised athlete versus someone who was born and raised in, Southern California. Those are different people. And how you speak to them are going to be different. How they're going to relate to you is going to be different. So for me, that was always something I was pretty good at. So it didn't take too much time for me. I honestly, not to be too rude or whatever, but like I was surprised at how weak and uncoordinated most of the guys were that I started working with. It was like they were really good at the one skill, but outside of that, they just didn't have this connection with their body. That was just it was just too disjointed. And so I found if I put those pieces together, their injury rates reduced, so they could perform better, and their ranking would go up because they weren't getting so beat up and sore all the time and tired, and they were more efficient on the court doing these other things versus just focusing only on tennis specific things, because that's all they used to do. I was just, you have to make it look like tennis, right? I'm like, yeah, there's a time and place for that, but it's also the more control and awareness of your body, because every forehand's a little bit different, right? We have different surfaces, different weather, different bounces, the reactions are different, and so you have to be this constant variability as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to train that, and so we do.
Really awesome, not only for us, but fans at home, just to get so much insight in behind the scenes of what goes on, with world #1 and the whole entire squad. So Jason, just appreciate you coming on and sharing all that. And we know you're in Dubai. Best of luck to the whole squad when you guys go to Riyadh for the WTA Finals.
Yeah, thank you very much. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And really, thanks. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jason.
Jason.
Good luck with your
Good
book.
luck. Keep it going.
Can't wait to read
Thanks,
it.
guys.